Doing? Welcome to yet another session of 10 new, fresh PMP sample cloned questions. Questions which appeared in the real exam, but I have gone ahead and changed a bit in terms of its wordings and also, shuffled a bit of the options as well, just to check out how ready we are in terms of getting started with the exam. Many of you, are just going to appear for the exam. Many of you have just gone ahead and kickstarted your PMP, and many are obviously going ahead and thinking how best you can go ahead and prepare for PMP whatsoever. So I am Soumya. I am representing EduHubSpot. Yeah, the center which goes ahead and makes sure that you get certified. For sure. We pride in your PMP. Nothing less, nothing more. Okay, so let's get started with today's session. I just wanted to give a brief recap of what all are the key essentials in terms of the examination perspective. 180 questions, 230 minutes to answer. So roughly 1.26 minutes per question. Yeah. So you have near around sufficient amount of time, if I may say. Why? Because we can go ahead with my 30 30 30 strategy. What does that mean? First 30 seconds to go for the to go for or read through the question in details. Next 30 seconds to look for the options. Yeah, look for the options which match your line of thinking and is the best to go ahead and take forward. And the third 30 minutes or third set of 30 minutes, 30 seconds to be precise, to go ahead and look forward to the right option by using or making use of the elimination techniques, or even say for example the keywords techniques and all the relevant techniques which many of us will go ahead and discuss just in a few minutes from now. So many of you have already attended, my live sessions previously. You know how best we go ahead and take it forward. We need to think inside the context. We need not think outside the context. And also, very importantly, we need to go ahead and be prepared with the PMI way of thinking. So having said that, I see Matt. Have you gone and cleared the exam? So last time we saw awesome participation from your end. So likewise, I wish to go ahead and see the participations from each and every one of you out here. Participation not only in terms of putting in the right option in the chat, whatever you feel as the best option, but also feel free to ask me any questions anytime. I am there to go ahead and help solve all your questions. It's not only about the live session out here, whose link, by the way, is this. So let me go ahead and share the link of the live session so that you can go ahead and share with any of your acquaintance. This is the link of the live session. Please share with anyone who is interested to get done with PMP and just take it forward. Take it forward with all your friends, all the community who is looking forward to getting done. And also, very importantly, even before we go ahead and kickstart, many of you might be asking the question of whether it's the Pinbox 6th edition or the 7th edition. Please have a look in the link again. Let me go ahead and share the same. Here we go. So this is the link out here. I am resharing the link. So there happens to be a typo in the previous one. So here's the link. So just go through that link. You'll be able to see, it's still the 6th edition that's relevant. It's not the 7th edition. So, you have to go ahead and get your task cut out in terms of, being thorough with Pinbox 6th edition if you wish to. And also, obviously, get in line with the PMI way of thinking as much the help that you wish to go ahead and get from Pinbox. Obviously, we will help guide you the best way possible, our simulator, our mentorship, and all other relevant things. So let's get started with the questions. Let me share my screen. And here you go. Starting 60 seconds now. Okay, so last 4 seconds. Okay, so we are done with the time. Okay, so most of you are dilly-dallying between options B and options D. Yeah, both seems to be very close out here. But see why it is, one of the options are obviously out of the lot. Those who have gone ahead and attempted option D, well, let me tell you that it is the correct option. Awesome. You are definitely in line with the PMI way of thinking from the agile perspective. Let's see why it is option D and why not the other options. Let me put in my pointer. Okay, so you are part of a cultural event project that has distinct work packages of varying durations. The work packages further comprises of tasks which cannot be predictably scheduled. Which of the following agile approaches should you recommend in this case? So obviously predictive gets knocked out first and foremost thing. Yeah, extreme. Well, extreme is kind of vague. So if there is any agile methodology which has this extreme word, you know it very well that has to be XP, right? Extreme programming. So this particular question out here has nothing to do with any of the best practices to carry forward from extreme programming in software world. Obviously, option C also doesn't stand a chance. Has to be between options B and D. Now, if you have gone ahead and attended my last sessions where there were some options on incremental, or you have gone ahead and seen for sure what incremental life cycle stands for, you know for sure that incremental life cycle helps you deal with work or helps you deal with small increments, which goes ahead and gives value to the customer, which customer can make use of as a product end to end. Just say for example, take the example of a 30-story building. Yeah, so each of the stories, say for example, have definite number of flats. Now, will you wait for all these 30 stories to get completed? There's 30 stories in the sense 30 floors to get completed. Then only will you go ahead and allow the customers in? No, right? You will get done with the first floor and then only you will go ahead and let your customer in. Likewise, the second floor, the third floor, the fourth floor, accordingly. Now, very important, the question doesn't mention anything about you going ahead and coming out with the product which will be, kind of welcomed by everyone inside the market. This doesn't say that. It is just simply talking about work packages which are distinct. And these work packages might be as simple as basic as you going ahead and getting done with small bits and pieces of the work which might not be adding any value to the customer right now, but definitely will add at some point of time later. We are not clear in the question out here whether it's the increments that's getting added or whether you are going ahead and giving forward the product end to end to the customers for their use. However, on the other hand, there is a clue that it can't be predictively scheduled and the work packages need to be realized in varying durations. Yeah, so you need to go ahead and keep that in mind. The work packages has varying durations out here. Yeah, so if you have to come out with a life cycle, where you go ahead and, say for example, take a work package which can be done within say 2 weeks, followed by another which can be done in 4 weeks, followed by another which can be done in 1 week, and finally get done with the work, then it is flow based agile, which is the best one which stands out. Why flow based? It's all about the flow, right? How you go ahead and take forward the work based on the flow or based on the rigor, you go ahead and take it forward and get it done. Yes. So the best or the standout option out here is flow based. Now, if you need any further info on flow based, feel free to reach me out at any point of time. I hope it is clear. Any comments on this particular question? So, are you able to right now acknowledge why it is option D and why not B? Yeah, so incremental definitely helps you in scenarios where you have something very important to go out and deliver in the market right away, especially from the context of say for example the competitors coming out with some of the other product, and you need to go ahead and get something out in the market to go ahead and make your product or your company kind of vying inside the market, kind of fighting for your existence inside the market. Yes, absolutely. Incremental is breaking down, big things into smaller increments or parts or chunks, which can be used by the customer. But here, it's all about the work packages, which might not be usable by the customer. You don't get a clue from that perspective. Also, a big standout clue out here is the word varying durations. Yes, the word varying durations out here. Obviously, it has to be a flow-based kind of context. So let's put out the pointer and let's click on flow based option. There you go. So it is the flow based, which is the only listed option which can do a pull based scheduling. So as you need, as much time you need, you go ahead and pull the relevant, work or schedule that work for that particular time to handle any unpredictable task conditions on a requirement or ad hoc basis. So whenever or whatsoever you need, you go ahead with that kind of requirement and get done with the work package. Okay. So let's move ahead with the next question. Here you go. The last 15 seconds. Okay, so the time's up. Okay, so even before going ahead with the discussion of this particular question, I get a couple of questions out here as to what is flow-based agile and what is the keyword of flow-based agile. So the keyword, as I mentioned, reiterate that if you go ahead and get any option which goes ahead and tells you about varying durations of sprints or iterations being of varying durations, whatever. If that's the case, so then obviously it has to be, or it has to fit in into the concept of flow based. Especially, I would say in the real world, it's more or less used in the manufacturing kind of paradigm where you don't have a fixed time, so everything or the work package or whatever you have to build and go ahead and submit might take varying times whatsoever. Might not always be the same time. Where, say, for example, in case of cars, where you know for sure what time is it going to take. But if, say, for example, you are dealing with a portfolio of electronic products, then obviously the time will be varying, and you'll have different kinds of timelines for that. So keep that in mind from the flow-based agile perspective. It's all about howsoever you need, you go ahead and allocate your bandwidth and take it forward. Again, if you have further questions, feel free to reach me out. That's an entirely elaborate kind of discussion and needs a lot of examples which we normally go ahead and take into consideration either in our videos or our live classes. Okay, so I see most of you have gone ahead and opted for option C. Awesome, great. So you know what exactly is being talked about, right? It's a very easy question. Let's see what it talks about. We bring in the pointer. Okay, so here you go. An efficient agile team comes out with new ideas and adds innovative features to the product backlog. These features got implemented, tested, and completed. So whatever the new ideas and the innovative features your team has come out with, those got completed. Completed in the sense both implemented as well as tested, and has also possibly met the customer satisfaction. Completed as per the DoD criteria. Yeah, so it's not clear or not given out here whether customer is satisfied or aligned with the product or not, but it is completed. It is aligned to the definition of done. However, upon completion, the portfolio owner rejected all these additionally added features. So, which of the following could be the most likely reason as to why the portfolio owner rejected it? Let's see what are the options. The team would be entitled to intellectual property rights on the features out of context. It doesn't talk anything about intellectual property rights. The portfolio owner does not wish to pay for the team's unplanned work. Is it mentioned anywhere inside the case out here? Yeah, most likely reason whatsoever. Any hint out here that he does not want to pay for the team's unplanned work whatsoever? Yeah, so you can't go ahead and take this into consideration. Also, option C, the product owner did not sufficiently align with the portfolio owner with the ideas. There's a typo out here, sufficiently with the portfolio owner with the ideas. That seems to be one of the reasons, right? So, if say, for example, there was a mismatch in ideas between the portfolio and the product owner, then and only then there can be such kind of situation. If you have misaligned with one of the key stakeholders inside the project and you wish that those features would get completed going down the line, obviously you are not doing justice, isn't it? So this seems to be a valid reason. The team did not make use of the normal quality control processes or QC processes. there is no there is no mention out here in the case that the team has misaligned on the normal QC processes or procedures. Obviously, this also gets knocked out. Standout option has to be option C. And remember, in such cases where it's mentioned that you have completed something, but then you're not able to take it forward, or some of the other stakeholder is not fully aligned with the work and goes ahead and kind of comments that no, I'm not okay fully with this particular work. Such kind of cases obviously points you towards misalignment between the key stakeholders ideas, or among the key stakeholders ideas, and you should be on the lookout for relevant option out there, the PMI way of thinking out here. Yes. Okay, so I will also incidentally happen to go ahead and smile in between the options as well. Just to go ahead and make sure that you also go ahead and smile at these options when you go ahead and strike these out. These can't be the options. Go ahead and enjoy whenever you are going ahead and attempting a key thing or a key aspect to go ahead and have high levels of accuracy in the exam. Anyone any questions? Yes, Matt says confirming and getting regular feedback is the key to success of backlog delivery. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Shomo says rather it says tested, so option D cannot be chosen. Absolutely, it already says tested, right? But then, if say for example, if you assume that they are not making use of the QC processes and then again completing the project, that can be one of the options or alternatives, right? But then it's not mentioned inside the context or the case out here asks you to go ahead and choose for the most likely reason. So even if D is a bit likely, could be one of the options, but it is not obviously the most likely reason. In such cases, the most likely option would definitely be the one which goes ahead and talks about misalignment between the stakeholders whomsoever are involved. Yeah, so I hope you are all enjoying the questions out here. Let's move on to the next question. Even before that, let's go ahead and see what is the correct option out here. We clear the screen. So as you see, option C is the right option. The product owner has to ensure that all the stakeholders are in line with the business objectives of the project. The other options are irrelevant, as we discussed. Okay, so here goes option question 3, and here goes your timer. Okay, so last 10 seconds. Okay, so you're done with the time. And awesome. Ashish, Priyanka, Chirag, Calvin, Vikram, Vagesh, Matt, I'm not able to see your option. Tanai, everyone, bang on. All those who attempted option D are perfectly to the point, and you are getting the PMI way of thinking. It's an easy question as well, right? And we just now discussed a few moments back what incremental life cycle is all about. That's what precisely is the question out here. Yeah. Uh, just before going to the discussion of the question, I just got reminded of one of the comments. I presume it was Calvin who pointed out align something with something is odd. Yes, it might seem odd. The options out there, whatever is relevant or whatever gets depicted in front of you for any of the questions might seem odd, but then you can't do anything about it. You have to go ahead with the best guess, and the best choice of judgment whatsoever. Yeah. Let's go ahead and discuss about this question. Let me pull in the pointer. Okay, so a restaurant chain wishes to create smartphone applications for their users. Okay, competitors of the company are racing to come out with similar applications. So you go out and sniff a bit of competition out here between your product and any of the other products in the market. As per the product owner's vision, there is a requirement for several versions of the app, such as Basic, Pro, and Premium. So there is a requirement for several versions of the app, and they have gone ahead and enlightened us about those versions as well. Which of the following agile processes is best suited for the restaurant chain in this case? So as we discussed, has to be incremental, right? So there is no mention of varying durations. So why will I think about flow based? There's also no mention about fixed iteration or time boxing. Yeah, and also you going ahead and somewhere down the line taking the product of one particular iteration to the next, and then going ahead and working on that, and then delivering it to the next iteration. There is no mention of that as well. No mention of that in the sense there is no mention of you going ahead and taking the product across iterations. You need to come out with something urgently in the iterations itself to help solve this competitor problem out there. You need something going out in the market immediately, and if you need something going out in the market immediately, iterative is not the option out here. Has to be incremental. Again, if it is agile approaches, predictive obviously gets ruled out. Yeah, so it has to be incremental out here. So let's see what the correct option is. So as you see, the product bundling caters to the basic till premium features. Best approach is incremental to deliver the key versions one after the other. You have to deliver something each iteration. You can't just wait on and come out with a better version of the product. You'll have to deliver something to go ahead and make yourself sustain in the competitive arena or world. Any questions? Yes, Calvin. I just now spoke about the flow base being related to the manufacturing line. Yes, Deepak, you can talk about that. Deliver minimum viable product, minimum viable. It's not viable. So MVP we go ahead and talk about, and then deliver the upgraded phases. That's precisely fits in with the incremental kind of thought process. Deliver something, keep delivering something as to go ahead and make yourself sustain in the competitive arena. Okay, so I need to accept this odd phrase risk out here. I'm not able to get what Calvin is going ahead and saying. So Calvin, please elucidate on that on that particular comment of yours. Okay, so I presume that everyone is clear on this particular question. Let's go ahead and move on to the next. Okay, here you go, and here you go. The timer. Okay, so last 7 seconds. And we are done with the time. Anyone, any options? Okay. Anyone else? Okay, so giving 30 more seconds is definitely something which is worth trying out. Because then only you'll be able to understand what exactly is the meaning of tests. Okay, so anyone else? Okay, so Calvin, Kujam, Shomo, Sanjay, everyone is spot on with their understanding of what tests are in the real context. Let's see why. Okay, so the user test results of a product have just arrived. From the results, it's evident that the test users wish a smoother experience. Many features which happen to be currently missing, as well as certain ways by which product can be made more appealing. So the users have gone ahead and come out with these observations. There happens to be certain features which are missing out. There also happens to be, certain ways by which the product can be made more appealing. So those are currently missing out in the features, and they also, that is, the users also wish to go ahead and get a more smoother experience. Currently, the experience what they are getting is that of a cumbersome kind of product, something which is very difficult to deal with. So now, based on these observations of the users, which of the following conclusions can be drawn? Are the tests irrelevant or are they unusable or a failure? Very important. If there are negative observations from the user's perspective, it doesn't mean that it's unusable or irrelevant or a failure. In fact, it's a big success because they are coming out with the real scenarios also. They are coming out with the real judgments out there of the product. And then only you as a team would be taking forward their feedback and going ahead with improving the lot, the next iteration itself. Remember, it's all about feedback and faster results. Inspect and adapt. Yeah, so these two phrases, feedback and results being driven faster. Or even say, for example, you inspect and adapt. So these two, would be very, 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 very important out here. Normally, inspect and adapt we normally make use of in the meetings whatsoever in Agile, where you inspect and then go ahead and adapt whatsoever. So you go ahead and adapt to whatever the feedback comes across the team, or even if, say, for example, you go ahead and get any feedback from the customer, at the end of, say, the sprint review, or at any point of time inside the sprint cycle itself, and try to factor in as part of your continuous improvement procedure. Tests were a definite success. The inputs will go ahead and make the product backlog more focused. Remember, product backlog refinement is something which is an ongoing process. Yes, from that ongoing process, you will be able to come out with a more fine-tuned product backlog, which will deem your test a success. Okay, so let's erase these and go ahead and select the option of the test being a success. And here you go. So the user tests provide the earliest possible input to adjust the product based on user needs. So whatever the users are needing, if there is a delta or a difference, you ensure that the user test goes ahead and provides, the relevant scenario of the platform to match or, go ahead and align the product as per the user needs. In the present case, the high number of use negative inputs can definitely be treated as a success because that, as such, goes out and enables even faster improvement. Remember, continuous improvement, one of the key paradigms from the agile mindset perspective. Anyone, any questions? Yes, absolutely, Mac. Improvements are based on feedback from users. Deepak, feedback will help improve the out of the box experience from users perspective? Absolutely. So if users are looking forward to out of the box experience, then definitely it fits in. Yeah, so as per users requirement, you are going ahead and delivering, and you are delivering their feedback and going ahead and improving the product to the different level or to the other level altogether. Okay, going ahead with the next question. Okay, so yeah, here goes the timer. Okay, so last 20 seconds. Okay, so we are done with the time. So even before we go ahead with discussing this particular question, I see a question from Stephen, whether the backlog can be modified or not. Absolutely, Stephen. That's the key idea of Agile. Why? Because the requirements happen to be complex. Requirements are not that easy to go ahead and get done with. Since the requirements are complex, as you move on, as you get more clarity on the requirements, you go ahead and refine or go ahead and fine tune the product backlog at your end by virtue of product backlog refinement. That's what we coin it for. The product backlog refinement goes out and helps you refine the product backlog, and the priorities keep changing. So earlier whatever were the 10 items, later goes out and gets changed into something else. Something else goes out and kind of fits in, and that's how you go out and take it forward, sprint upon sprint upon sprint. Again, it's a big discussion and a lot of things have to be discussed in the perspective. Either get the full idea from the simulator videos or even our live classes. Okay, so I see a number of attempts. Kunal, you are bang on. You are bang on. And you have got so many attempts, or rather, so many concepts clear that I can definitely go ahead and say. Okay, let's go into the discussion of the question. Okay, as a project manager of an agile team, you are taken by surprise when you see that a senior or expert member's output is much lower than a junior team member's output. As a matter of fact, the expert team member works diligently on most of the complex tasks and is known to produce defect free results. Which of the following is most likely explanation behind this anomaly? Very important, when you are going ahead with the options, just to take a pause for a couple of milliseconds, and if you wish, just reread this particular sentence. As I mentioned, the 30 seconds that you initially allocate for the question can be dedicated towards reading this case again and understanding what the question is asking. Very, very important before you jump to the options. So out here, if you are going and saying what is the most likely explanation behind this anomaly, and you go ahead and kind of fall from the sky as to what is the anomaly whatsoever being referred to. Anomaly meaning something which is not as per the expectations, as simple as it gets, right? So what is not as per the expectations? So there is some expert or senior team member inside the team whose output is much lower than the junior team member's output. Now, people can say that that can be the case. Yes, but obviously, if the expert team member is known to work or works diligently on most of the complex tasks, how can he go ahead and give less output than the junior team member? That is the anomaly out here. Are you getting the point? Yeah, so you have a couple of team members out here, one being the expert, or not a couple, say you have say 3 to 9 team members out there in the team. So one of them is the expert team member who happens to work diligently. He's known for his diligence out here, and everyone kind of reveres him, respects him for the work that he has done. And right now, which is the most important aspect, right now he works diligently on most of the complex tasks. So if we go and compare his task with those of the junior team members who are not working as productively as the expert team member, how can his, that is the expert team members work, be of lesser output than the young members? So that is the anomaly out here. What is the most likely explanation behind that anomaly? That's your question. See, you need to pause, you need to understand what is being talked about, and then you need to go ahead and choose the options. You still have another go out here if you want to change your mind whatsoever. Feel free to type in. Okay, so the expert team member happens to work faster and report fewer hours than the junior team members. Most likely explanation, right? So if he works diligently, is it likely for him to go ahead and report fewer hours than the junior team members? Is it something like he wants to put the junior team members in the front by just giving some wrong information? Does that happen to be diligent, or that does that happen to be likely? No, right? Likewise, the expert team member executes more tests and therefore completes fewer stories than he is supposed to. Now, very important, more or less tests whatsoever is entirely subjective, right? It's subjective to the size or the extent of the story, to the size or the extent of the story, right? So if some story goes ahead and has, say, 10 acceptance criteria, each of which has subtests whatsoever, it might go ahead and have 30 set of tests whatsoever. Might have. Absolutely, it might have. Yeah, but then it's not a guaranteed kind of thing that the only the expert team member will have such stories where there are so many acceptance criteria, so many tests. It doesn't need to automatically fit in that the junior team member is having stories which require lesser scenarios or lesser kind of testings at the end. Doesn't fit in, right? Doesn't fit in the expectations, or doesn't fit in the normal way of taking things forward. So very, very important out here that if it goes out and suggests about more tests which are coming in play, and you going out and having fewer stories at the end from the expert team members' perspective, obviously that also doesn't make sense. The younger team members are supposed to be more productive. Absolutely not. This is entirely contrast to whatever we are going ahead and reading in the case of the question. So by virtue of elimination as well, we have D as the standout, which goes ahead and says that the story point estimates on the expert's work happen to be way too low. Now, this is a very, very crucial concept out here. A lot number of time we see that story pointing is linked or mapped somewhere down the line to the number of hours that it goes and takes, or the complexity, rather complexity in terms of the number of acceptance tests whatsoever, or a number of days it takes. So such kind of things whatsoever which are not obviously the way to go ahead with story pointing. Story pointing is all about a relative kind of marking, where you take a vote from all the team members as to what should be the best story point being assigned to a particular story. Now, very likely, and that happens also in teams where you have an expert team member, he might go ahead and say that I will go ahead and get this done within, say, a few days. That doesn't undermine the extent of the story, right? So an 8 story pointer story, for him might appear as a 5 story pointer. Everyone might agree as a 5 story pointer and go ahead with that. And that might happen in this case on a consistent basis. So if that has happened, where 8 story pointer or even, stories of higher sizes have been marked less, that goes ahead and gives you the possible clue out here as to why the story point estimates on the expert's work happen to be way too low. Am I making sense? And I pause out here. Let me go ahead and take the pointer out. And let me go ahead and mark the relevant option. And here you go ahead and see the explanation. Story points are a measure of progress in agile project. Actual hours won't be apparent unless readjusted, right? So are you seeing what exactly the option is going ahead and talking about? So story point estimations are something which is based on approximations or complexities, and even the vote of the team members might or might not reflect the actual work that he is going ahead and doing. Might be that some of the other facets got missed out during the time of grooming the story. Grooming in the sense understanding what exactly is in the scope of that particular story. So during that discussion itself, some of the other points got missed out. But because of this expert's due diligence, he or she went ahead and considered all those facets inside the scope of the work and got those done without raising a hue and cry about the work being done. Of course, after having pointed the story, you are not supposed to go ahead and increase the story points based on the estimates or based on the efforts that you put in. So obviously, from that perspective, the expert happens to lose out. So this particular question also helps you explain the story points perspective very, very clearly. Any doubts? Any questions? Thanks, Matt. Okay, so Stephen, you are asking thanks. However, can it be modified when a sprint is on? No, not the story points. I presume you are referring to the story points out here. No, the story points can't be modified during the scope of the story. Yes, Matt. It tells about the difficulty level or the complexity of the story, and that can go ahead and factor in many factors whatsoever. It can factor in, the hours that you go ahead and take, combined with the complexity or the toughness or the real time scenario. You go ahead and compare with some other facet or some other work which you have already done, and then you go ahead and come out with the real explanation. Thanks, Kunal. Okay, so let's move forward. There's a big discussion about story points. It normally takes a lot of time to go ahead and precisely explain what story pointing is, especially for those who are not from the agile background. They completely understand the question, doubts that you have. Again, feel free to reach me out if you have any queries anytime. I will, by the way, go ahead and mention my email ID and LinkedIn URLs towards the end of the session. So, stay fastened till that point of time. Calvin, this means too few jobs available to expert to process. No, it's not about jobs for expert to process whatsoever. So whatever jobs, or rather whatever work or stories the expert is going ahead and handling, that is not estimated to the relevant figures in terms of story points. So if you are not aware of story points, just go and read it this particular facet. Story as such very tricky whatsoever. Yes, absolutely. Yes. So you have to go ahead and take forward the understanding of story points and see what exactly it is. And if it is misaligned and it happens to consistently misalign, then obviously the experts, work is not being given due diligence as such. Work in the sense not being given the relevant kind of bandwidth, I would say, from the estimations perspective. He is taking the bandwidth, he is efficient. So instead of 8 hours, he's going ahead and stretching out possibly 10 hours or 12 hours and getting the work done with all the things factored in. But the story pointing or estimation stays as in as low as say 5 story points, or even something which is half the effort what he has actually put in. That's where the misalignment goes. Okay, yes, Homo, feel free to reach me out at any point of time. Okay, let's go ahead with the next question. Okay, and here you go. Now, this is a bulky question. I'm giving you 3 to 5 minutes for you to go ahead and study the question and come out with the option. Let me go ahead and read it for you and also make it full screen for you. I'm not starting the timer. I'm giving you sufficient time to help deal with this question. This happens to be a very simple question, but then let's see how best you can go ahead and take it forward. Okay, so you are part of a finance tech company that serves stock market worldwide. Okay, an experimental R&D project has agile teams working in three different office locations: Seattle, Tokyo, and London. Now, for those who aren't aware of the exact time zones of these three, it has also been given. So, 11 p.m. at Seattle is equivalent to 7 a.m. at London, is equivalent to 3 p.m. at Japan. Now, there are a couple of shifts out here. One shift is between 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., shift one. The other shift is shift two, is between 4 p.m. till midnight. Yeah, so, each of these That is, each of these locations have three different teams. So one is the Seattle team, that is the London team, the other is the Tokyo team. So these have shifts one and shifts two. Yeah, all of these have shifts one and shifts two, which are catering to these particular time zones. Yeah, one being 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., the other being 4 p.m. to midnight. Now, the question out here is which of the following collaboration methods would ensure fastest resolution in below the sun kind of technique? Now, very important from agile perspective, and also obviously from any project's perspective, below the sun kind of project is a project where you go ahead and have a multi geographic project, or projects where the team members are from various geographies, as you see out here. They are Seattle, Tokyo, London, or could be from any other part of the globe. Below the sun also requires you to go ahead and align to each other's time zones, and more often than not what you normally do is, say for example, someone from US goes ahead and gets done with the day's work and goes ahead and provides the same to someone from Japan, to go ahead and take it forward accordingly. Normally it happens likewise. It also might happen that you might go ahead and work with another team in tandem, in parallel, during the same hours which coincides between the two. The question out here goes and asks you which of the following collaboration methods would ensure fastest resolution in this particular kind of mode. Yeah. So now I will be going ahead and giving you the options to this question. Let me just go ahead and take you out there. Yeah. So these are the three options out here. I will go to the fourth option once you have made a note of these. Let me also go ahead and reduce the screen font. I hope this is visible. Execute fishbowl windows communication technique with overlapping shifts in this order. Okay. So Tokyo shift 2 is Seattle shift 1, London shift 1 is Seattle shift 2. Option B, daily come meetings in this order. Option C, fishbowl windows communication techniques with this order. And option D, daily come meetings in this order. Yeah. I'm again going ahead with the timings because that's important to go ahead for you to go ahead and make a call, and then I will again come down after 2 minutes, after a minute. So these are the time zones and these are the shifts. Giving a couple more minutes. Okay, so I'm taking you back to the options. No worries, Calvin. We'll take care of any of your queries. Awesome, Chirag. You have got it bang on. You are the first person who have got it correct. There's no worries. You can go ahead and make intelligent guesses. No worries. PMI is not going to charge you for that. There's no negative marking. I've seen a couple of options which are A. Will say that it's kind of close. No, absolutely not, Calvin. You'll have to come out with a time where it syncs up with each one, right? And that's precisely being given in the question. You don't even need to think through. I'll explain. No worries. Yes, Ashish will explain. Okay. Before I go to the question, I just saw one person. Was it Avingya or someone? We'll have to check. So the comment came that story pointing is from the individual developer's perspective. No, that's sometimes a myth. Story pointing is done from the whole team's perspective. Yes, so everyone in the team will go on and pitch forward. It's not the developer by himself or herself who will go ahead and come out with the story pointing. You have to take into consideration the vote from the team, and that's where you'll go ahead and have proper justification, or rather proper story pointing. More often than not, it happens that an 8 story pointer gets pointed as 5, or even a 3 story pointer might get pointed as 5, or even 8 as well. But then lessons learned towards the end of the sprint, where you go ahead and dig deep and see how you can go ahead and improve and take it forward. But as you said, feel free to reach me out. I will go ahead and explain in more details. Okay, so coming to this particular question, happens to be a very interesting one. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so you're part of a fintech company that serves XYZ experimental R&D project, agile teams working in 3 different locations below the sun kind of project, as I explained. Yes, and the locations or timings happen to be like this. So 11 p.m. at Seattle is corresponding to 7 a.m. in London, corresponding to 3 p.m. at Japan. So if you go ahead and try to compare these, yeah, with the shifts. So what is the shift out here being spoken about? Say 11 p.m. in Seattle is shift 2, correct? So shift 2 of Seattle, overlaps seamlessly with shift 1 of London, which in turn overlaps seamlessly with shift 2 of Tokyo. So if you go ahead and have such kind of shifts whatsoever with the relevant overlaps, job done. Now the next facet that you need to go ahead and consider is whether it has to be a fishbowl kind of communication technique or a daily scrum of scrum kind of technique. Now, very important, in Scrum or Scrum, what we normally do is we have several Scrum teams. We scale it to a Scrum of Scrum level so that we can manage all these Scrum teams efficiently. Now, you might say that you'll have a Scrum of Scrum placed in say Seattle, some other Scrum of Scrum placed in Japan, some other Scrum of Scrum placed in somewhere else, and then you go ahead and have a Scrum of Scrum. Rather, these 3 Scrum teams placed in different geographies, and you go ahead and have a Scrum of Scrum to manage these 3 different teams efficiently. But the question out here is, you going ahead and having the collaboration method that would ensure fastest resolution. So Scrum of Scrum is definitely an efficient way to go ahead and take it forward. But even more efficient is the fishbowl technique. So remember, in my previous sessions, I had spoken a bit about fishbowl technique, where you have an internal ring of team members out here sitting, and an external ring of team members, with everyone going ahead and getting views from everyone else. It goes ahead and opens out the entire spectrum of member of partnership, of involvement, of their participation inside any of the meetings whatsoever, to help take their discussion forward. So whenever they will be asking the question about fastest way or most efficient way to collaborate, happens to be the fishbowl technique out here. Go ahead and read about fishbowl technique. Happens to be a very interesting technique whatsoever. So be it you present physically out there to have this meeting, or virtually, where you go ahead and meet up and discuss amongst all your team members out here. Fishbowl technique happens to be one of the best techniques to go ahead and take it forward. Yeah, so the options where you go ahead and get to see daily scrum or scrum meetings, those get ruled out. Now the next part of the question out here. So let's see, Tokyo shift 2 with Seattle shift 1. Is it matching? So Tokyo shift 2, Seattle shift 2, right? It's not shift 1. Gets ruled out. So what are you left with? You have anyways done with Scrum or Scrum options. B and D are done with. So obviously has to be option C, correct? Let me go ahead and take my pointer out. And let me go down out here. So as you see, London shift 1 with Tokyo shift 2. Yeah, Seattle shift 1 with London shift 2 and Tokyo shift 1 with Seattle shift 2. One of the best ways to go out, and you see that all these timings are overlapping as well. Just, based on the sample time that's being given out here at the top. Fishbowl with this kind of overlap. Option C. So again, 11 p.m. London, 7 a.m. Japan, 3 p.m. in Seattle. So shift 2 of London, you know, matches with shift 1 of Japan, shift 2 of London with shift 2 of Japan, as well as 3 p.m. of as well as rather 3 p.m. of Japan, which is equivalent to 11 p.m. of Seattle. So shift 2 of Seattle. So shift 2 of Seattle with shift 1 of Japan, of London. So if you see shift 1 of Seattle with shift 2 of London, the other way around it works. And even London shift 1 with Tokyo shift 2. So London shift 1 with Tokyo shift 2, London shift 1 with Tokyo shift 2. See, it virtually goes at an overlaps. 7 a.m. London, 3 p.m. Japan. So shift 1 London overlaps with shift 2 Japan, followed by Seattle shift 1, London shift 2. So let's see, Seattle shift 2 matches with the shift 1 of London, correct? So it will be the other way around as well. That is, if shift 1 of Seattle will match with shift 2 of London. So are you seeing what exactly is the key out here? So once you get these aligned, there are a couple of facets out here. One being the fishbowl, you're choosing out that option over scrum or scrums, and second being the overlap you are going ahead and taking it out from here. Remember, which is very very important from this particular uh, perspective out here to go ahead and think through, is that PMI won't be testing your IQ out here from the questions. Whatever the data that would be given would seamlessly fit in what exactly you will have to go ahead and take it forward. Yes, Calvin. So at the outset, in first go, ideally you go ahead and skip this question if it seems to be too cumbersome for you. But then the more the word, tendency or chances are that the options will be very very seamless, or you don't have to go ahead and dig deep much into the relevant scheme of things. It will be there inside the question itself. So if you wish, and it seems to be a bit of a hard question for you to go ahead and handle, click on mark for review, move ahead. Only if you have time towards the end, then only go ahead and come back to this particular question. Because ideally, this will take more than 2 minutes and is likely to go ahead and eat time from your perspective. All right. But if you feel confident and if the option seems seamless, fishbowl, I know the time zones. Let's see what the time zones are. Okay, these three time zones, shift one, shift two. Okay, so this has to be. Scrum is out, has to be only fishbowl. A and D, A and C. Okay, so under A, I have this particular time overlap. That doesn't match with this particular option, so has to be C. Go ahead and mark, move forward. This is as much, or this is what the word that is required from you from this particular question's perspective. Uh, Fishbowl, I would say, it can be a fastest, resolution, at least out here among the options that's, being presented. Fishbowl is the fastest way of collaboration out here. And normally, from PMI perspective, collaboration is one step short of you solving the problem. In fact, it's the same. Once you collaborate, you're gonna solve the problem. So any kind of collaboration would also take you to the solution. Fastest mode of collaboration, why not? It is also the fastest mode of you being taken towards the solution of the problem. Yeah, I won't say it's too much maths, Calvin, but yeah, so a bit of maths would be needed. But in fact, it's already clarified out there in the question. If that's the case, you know full well that you don't have to do too much maths. Very important. Remember that in the exam, from PMP perspective, you won't have to touch too much of pen on paper in terms of you calculating, doing divisions, multiplications, drawing out time zones. No, things will be given in the question itself. You'll just have to apply. That's what they're looking forward to, and that's what they're checking. Okay, so anyone else having any questions on this particular aspect, please reach me out. We've already taken a lot of time for explaining this question. So, if you have any further questions, please reach me out. Let's move ahead. Okay, let me increase the font. And here you go. Okay, so last 10 seconds. And we are done. Okay, so let's see what is the question talking about. Okay, so XYZ Incorporation has a strong predictive culture. As part of the company's change program, an experienced agile project manager is hired to help the company adopt agile methodologies. Okay, so some corporation out here has a strong predictive culture. Now, as part of the change program, an experienced agile project manager is hired to help the company adopt agile methodologies. Now, out of all these options, which two goes ahead and um, is the option, or which two out of the lot are the option for the project manager, the experienced project manager, to go ahead and take forward to help the company in this regard. Remember, when it says about select two, it happens to be the best. Need not necessarily be that other options can be outrightly rejected. There might be close options out here, but it is going ahead and asking you for the best. Okay, so anyone, any options? Okay, I see three B and E's. Okay, the note takers for A, C, E, or rather A and C. Okay, there's one for A and B. Okay, so there is one for D and E. Awesome, Kelvin. Okay, so anyone else? Options A and D. Okay, very good, Calvin. So out of the entire group of attendees out here, you have gone ahead and got this question correct at the first instance. Awesome. Let's see why. Okay, so the first option: analyze all planned projects to select the appropriate agile model. Okay, so selecting the agile model is definitely a good way to go forward as such. Definitely. But then, is it the most important out here? The question out here is for you, or for your company, or for you as a project manager or an experienced project manager, to come out with the adoption policies in terms of agile. So something, your company is going ahead and following predictive culture. You now have to go ahead and fit in the projects into the agile mindsets. Why will you go ahead and start digging into the appropriate agile model even without ensuring that you have to go ahead with agile? It might still be predictive, or it might still be hybrid kind of model. So you're transitioning from predictive to agile. You have to come out with the relevant model. The relevant model, in the sense, could be an incremental, could be iterative, or could be a mix and match of both. You'll definitely have to do that. But then at the first go, you should better come out with the appropriate methodology, right? Methodology in terms of whether it's predictive or agile. You'll definitely do option A, and it's not a bad option, but it's not the most important. Keep that in mind. Train project teams to become more self-reliant and cross-functional. Now, very, very important out here. You can definitely go out and do that. And many of you would go out and say, that's what servant leadership is all about. And also agile is all about, right? Make the team empowered, make them self-reliant, make them cross-functional. What do you mean by cross-functional? People from different genres going ahead and coming, or collecting together, and going ahead and getting done with the scheme of things. So there can be a few from designers, few from developers, few from testers, all of whom go ahead and get done with the work, for your team end to end, cross-functional team, right? You going ahead and making them self-reliant or even more cross-functional serves only when you have decided to adopt agile in your team. Until unless you have decided to go for agile, how come you go ahead and come out with these aspects? See, both options A and B are options after you have gone ahead and adopted agile. Keep that in mind. Make use of Moscow analysis to write all project requirements. Well, this analysis technique is obviously helpful for you to write the project requirements, but then obviously not helpful for you to choose whether you have to go for predictive to agile, and whether it's at all pertinent for you to come out with agile. Option C gets ruled out. Come out with opportunities for incremental business value delivery. That's where you'll be able to showcase to the team, see, this is the benefit of agile. Let's go ahead and adopt agile because we'll have to come out, or we can come out with incremental business value delivery. That's what we discussed a few questions back, right? As well, the power of incremental cycle. Tell them what exactly it is. So rather you going ahead and selecting or analyzing to select the relevant model, you going ahead and come out with opportunities where that particular business model will be useful in, and go ahead and come kind of create an understanding among the team members to go ahead and adopt the relevant methodology or the relevant model, come out with incremental business value delivery. Definitely a good option. Depict to stakeholders as to how agile can increase quality and decrease risk. That's what. So again, in similar lines, depict them, bring them in confidence to adopt agile. Then you can go ahead and opt for options A and B. So analyze which model will go forward or make the team self-reliant and cross-functional. But how can you jump the gun and go ahead with A and B even without going ahead and bringing the stakeholders into confidence? Has to be options D and E, which is correct out here, right? Any questions? Okay, so let's see what the explanation is for this particular question. Let me see out here. So options D and E, and here you go. Let's see what the explanation is. Communicating and demonstrating the benefits of agile methodology, best ways to adopt the appropriate agile model. Absolutely. So before even adopting the appropriate agile model, communicate, demonstrate the benefits. Then only take option on the next thing. Next step out here. Remember, the question out here says that you have a strong predictive culture. You are going around and opting for a culture with agile methodologies. What would you do to help the company in this regard? So, not obviously right away going ahead and coming out with the appropriate agile model. Even much more, go ahead and showcase the stakeholders the importance of adopting agile. Because you haven't yet adopted agile. Had the question been out here that the company has adopted agile, then you could have definitely gone for options A and B. But it is in the process of transition, and that's where is the key. Absolutely, Apple. No worries. I will go ahead and make sure, as you see right now, I've just gone ahead and erased any of the text when I'm explaining. Yes. So when you will be attempting the question, and when obviously, I will be selecting the options as well, we'll make sure that, we'll write as less text as possible. Yes, Ravi, communicate stakeholders, benefits, incremental business value. Understanding difference was adopting and implementing. Thanks, Apple. No worries. No worries, absolutely. See, that's the key funda of agile. I'm also being agile out here. I'm also adapting as and when I get feedbacks from you. That's where the continuous improvement lies, correct? That's what is agile mindset all about. No problem, sir. Okay, so Shomo says, but when trying to move from predictive to agile, then training the team is required? No, absolutely not. See, that's the key thing to understand. You should not force fit something saying that, you were predictive earlier, now you'll have to be agile. Let's go and train the team and make them agile. That doesn't work. You'll have to showcase the stakeholders, showcase the team benefits, and let them come out with the relevant approaches as per your coach and guidance. See, there's seldom things to go out and train. Rather, you will have to coach. There is a difference between coaching and training. Yes? So, coaching goes out and makes you ready for the relevant things whatsoever. Thanks, Apple. Okay. Keyword was adopting for the question. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so let's move on to the next question. Just a second. Just give me a moment. Just give me a minute. There happens to be some issue with the pointer out here. Okay, no worries. Uh, the navigation arrow seems to be somewhere on the line, missing out here from the rest of the questions. There were three questions left, but having said and done, I'll go ahead with 13 questions the next time when we meet up. Unfortunately, there's some issue out here with the website where the questions were docked in. Having said that, it was great to go ahead and discuss with you on all these facets of agile. Do you have any questions? Any questions from any perspective or any angle out here whatsoever? Feel free to ask me. Yes, absolutely. The idea is to help the company to transition from waterfall to agile. Yes, not about adopt or implement. Absolutely. Okay, so let me give it a final try in a different browser. Let me see out here if the pointer comes. Okay, yes, it comes. It definitely comes. Finally, I got it. Okay, let me go ahead and see if it is visible out here. Okay, so let me make it visible again. It can be done. It can be done. Hold on. It was, yeah, I hope you're all able to see my screen. So let me go ahead and take you across again the So what I encountered is a risk. What I came out with the workaround with a different browser altogether, right? So that's the difference between the risk and the workarounds. The risk responses and the workarounds. Okay, let me just go ahead and take you through all the options out here. This is option C. So I am not getting this particular, navigation tool or option inside Edge. So I'm making use of Chrome right now. Okay, so this option was options D and E. And let's move on to the next one. Yes, you have it plain right here. Let me start the option and here you go. Question 8. Okay, so 30 more seconds. Okay, so I get to see B's and D's. Let's see what the option would be out here. Okay, so I see A's and B's, C's and D's, A's and D's as well. So let's see what the exact option is for this particular question. Okay, so you are an agile project manager. The schedule of your team's product owner has been made unworkable owing to many meetings. Yeah. So you have been asked to prioritize some meetings and decrease frequencies of others. So, there were some other meetings which were, of high priority, but you were asked to decrease those priorities and, or rather increase the priorities and decrease frequencies of others. You as a product owner. Yeah. So now, which of the following meetings should be prioritized to ensure successful product development in a better way? So, which of the following meetings should be prioritized to ensure successful development in a better way? Sprint planning, daily stand up, team blocker meeting, or end user feedback meeting, or project performance reviews. So, which are the five options that's relevant out here? Remember, at any point of time, it's the end user feedback meeting, which is very, very important or very, very important to keep in mind. Why? Because feedback is something on which Agile rests on. So, out of any of the other, options out here, end user feedback meeting has to be one of the options which has to be prioritized. And the second option out here, in terms of whether we have to go ahead with sprint planning, or daily stand up, or team blocker meeting, or project performance reviews, we will definitely have to go for the one which goes ahead and fits in seamlessly with the product development out here in a better way. So, which one of these options goes ahead and deals end to end with the product? Anything? Any idea? Obviously, the planning where we go ahead and fill in the sprint backlog, sprint planning itself, right? So sprint planning happens to be one of the meetings where you go ahead and discuss about the product end to end. Okay, so I don't have the pen out here. I don't have the the add-on out here in Chrome. So I'm making use of this pointer itself right now. So I hope that's not going to cause any issues out here in terms of understanding. Yeah, so understand what's being talked about. So you have to prioritize the meetings which is going to ensure successful product development. This is the keyword out here. So any of the meetings which goes ahead and aligns in a better way to product development, is going to serve the purpose. In this case, sprint planning meeting, where you go ahead and deal with the sprint backlog, you assign things inside the scope of the sprint and take those forward end to end, has to be one of the options. And also any of the feedback that you are going ahead and getting from what you delivered end to end to the customer. There is the end user feedback meeting. So aren't these the best options to go ahead and take care of? Options A and D are the best options out here. So let me see. Yes. Indumati, yes, absolutely. So there are only two meetings that you have to take care of. Yes, A and D. A and D are the is the option out here. So are you able to see why not B? Daily stand up obviously, would be taking care of all the facets, including I fully acknowledge, including the details of the product. But if you have to come out with only two options, which has to be of highest priority, to go ahead and get done with the scheme of things from the product's perspective end to end, has to be sprint planning or has to be end user feedback meeting. Daily stand up, you do go ahead and discuss about what went well, or rather, how you went ahead and did yesterday, what will you do today, and if there are any blockers or not. Team blocker meeting, that's a separate meeting outside the scrum facet. We discuss only about the blockers in details. Even the project performance reviews, how your team members are going ahead and faring on a sprint by sprint basis, how many points they're going ahead and delivering. Performance reviews, that's obviously not nothing to do entirely or in more depth or details about the product. Only options A and D have. We have sprint planning meetings every sprint. We have to, right, Stephen? Because until and unless we get in line with what you have to do with this in this sprint, how much you have to commit, or what all we have to commit, we are not in proper shape in terms of getting our work done. Yes, Chirag, absolutely. Okay, so let's move ahead with the next question. Question 9. And here goes your timer. Absolutely. This is similar to previous question, but the question is different. Please read the last sentence of the question. Okay, so we are done with the time. Let's see what exactly would be the option pertinent to this question. I see many of you choosing B and E. Okay, so that's the takeaway from the previous question itself. Huh? Cool. Let's go ahead and see what the exact option is for this particular question. Okay, so you are an agile project manager. The schedule of your team's product owner has been made unworkable owing to too many meetings. You have been asked to prioritize some meetings and decrease frequencies of others. Similar to question 8. But now here comes the difference in the questions. So, which of the two meetings, select any two of these, should the product owner attend less frequently? So, in the previous case, it was, what should he prioritize? In this present case, what should he or she go ahead and attend less frequently? End user iterations meetings, end user feedback meetings? Obviously not. You know it very well that these are the topmost priority, right? Daily stand up meetings? Well, stand up, you know it very well. Product owner is optional, has to be one of the options. Product SME consultation. So anything pertaining to product, who will be product owner's, daily activity or daily task. He has to go out and consult with product, SMEs on a regular basis to get, the product priorities aligned or even the product backlog refined in the proper way. Sprint retrospectives or team performance meetings. If you have to choose between these two, obviously he will go out and choose which one. The team performance reviews out here, right? Sprint retrospective still as part or as compared to option E is still more important. See how I went ahead and eliminated the options. So end user feedback sessions, very important. Product SME consultations, product owner should definitely go and attend, right? Sprint retrospectives in terms of what went well, what didn't go well. Well, there are chances that your team might come out with some of the other discussions about the product in entirety. Likewise, team performance reviews. Performance reviews. How much team is faring on a day-to-day basis in terms of their story points. Product owner has nothing to do with those. It's in fact the role of the agile project manager to go ahead and deal with those, isn't it? So happens to be B and E, which is the best option out here to go ahead and take forward. So let's go ahead and take it forward to the next question. Even before that, do you have any doubts or queries whatsoever? B and E, absolutely for anyone out here. Yes. So these would be the correct options. Yes, SME is subject matter expert. Thanks, Ratna, for explaining it. So product SME or product expert, consultations whatsoever, so you can refer to that. So are you seeing how you went out and refined it? So first we determine which are the most effective ones. Anything pertaining to product has to be, the way forward for the product owner. He has to go ahead and attend sprint retrospectives, end user feedback sessions. How we went for those, but didn't go for options B and E, or rather chose options B and E, which needs to be attended less frequently from his perspective. Okay, so SME shall be consulted less frequently. See, very important, Deepthi out here. Sorry, Siva out here. It's all referring to the product SME. It's not a normal SME out here. So the product SME has stuffs or has important things to discuss about the product. Product owner has his entire, kind of efforts to be fine tuned towards the product itself. The chances are high or odds are high that those consultations might prove to be beneficial for him. Yeah, Devyani, I'll show you the explanation of the previous question. Just give me a moment. Yeah, so this is the explanation of question 7. Let me go to question 8. So this was the explanation of question 8. Let me submit. Yeah, and this was the explanation of question 8, which you are looking forward to, Devyani. So customer is at the highest levels of priority. So end user feedback sessions are very important. Furthermore, any form of black backlog planning is of high importance for the product owner. Precisely what we went ahead and discussed. Okay. And this was question 9, which we discussed right now. We click on submit. Here goes your explanation. Agile puts highest focus on end user satisfaction and delivery. Agile considers administrative processes such as performance reviews as having lower priority. Further, the product owner is not needed at every daily meeting. Daily meeting in the sense daily stand up meetings. Precisely what we discussed. Okay. Welcome, Devyani. Let's move ahead. DP, I will come back to your question. So you joined late. Would PMP have 5 options in the coming exam? Yes, absolutely. It's very likely to go ahead and have 5 options in the exam where you'll be asked to choose couple of options or even 3 options out of the lot of 5 questions. But then those will feature at most, 10 to 20 questions out there from the entire lot of the questions out here. And that's how you go ahead and take it forward. Okay, so let's move on. Question 10. And here goes your timer. Okay, so we are done with the time. Let's discuss about what it all about. Okay, so anyone going ahead with okay, so option C is couple of option C's where Calvin went for D. Okay, awesome guys, we have chosen option C, perfectly in line with the way of thinking out here in the question. Let's see what is it all about. Okay, so the development cost per story has risen by over 350% over the past 6 months due to a faulty platform which is no longer supported. As per the product vision, the unique features of the platform are a prerequisite of the product. Which of the following should be the next step for the project manager? Okay, so the development cost per story has risen over 350% over the past 6 months due to a faulty platform which is no longer supported. So you are going ahead and invariably making use of this faulty platform over and over again. And that has gone ahead and caused the cost to go ahead and overshoot 350%. Now, as per the product vision, the unique features of the platform are a prerequisite of the product. Which of the following should be the next step for the project manager? Okay, so now as the project exceeds the typo out here, exceeds the budget constraints, cancel the project. Will you go ahead and cancel the project? Is that the solution out here, or the next step? Or even say, for example, as the product vision could not be fulfilled, cancel the project. So canceling the project is not the way forward. There might be some issues with the project, but it hasn't come to that point where you have to go ahead and cancel the project. Execute what if cost scenario, impact scenarios with the product owner. Absolutely. So you go ahead and execute what if scenarios and come out with the impacts whatsoever and see, what best scenario goes ahead and fulfills, or what best is your way of or course of action for that particular scenario. And you go ahead and take the call forward. Canceling the project might be an option after you have analyzed everything. But will you go ahead and directly cancel the project as a solution? Absolutely not, right? Suggest the product owner to select an alternate platform. Why will you go ahead and ask him to go ahead and select an alternate platform if the problem can be solved in your platform itself? That's why you have to first analyze, come out with the root cause, and then only help deal with the problem. So I reiterate the reason as to why I'm smiling or laughing at the options which are incorrect is because I want you to smile or laugh at the options, and then only you'll be able to get the most out of what is incorrect out here. These are, trivial things where you should not go ahead and get wrong. Canceling the project, obviously not the call out here. It's too drastic a call. If you are, not given a situation where, you know, things are out of control. Cost might be high. That's absolutely fine. But why 350%? It can be 500%, 600%. You don't even know what threshold you are going beyond. So will you just go ahead and directly jump into the option and go ahead and try to cancel the project? Absolutely not, right? Option C has to be the best option out here. So as you see, the product owner needs to analyze all the possible scenarios to conclude if the project can be continued or not, as the foundational assumptions are no longer economically sustainable. The foundational assumptions are no longer sustainable, right? So obviously the product owner needs to analyze all the scenarios to conclude, whether the project can be continued or not, especially the what if scenario. Without doing the what if scenario, you're not in a position to go ahead and safely assume that it can be cancelled. Yes, no, but then again, Ankur, a very, very important point, and I presume many of you have the particular question or stuff in mind. See, impact analysis is not necessarily only going ahead with the cost aspect and seeing how much it has risen. Yes, it has also to be considering the other impacts as such as well, be it the schedule, be it other facets. Cost has definitely risen, but what is the impact of the cost on the project? Can that be dealt with? That's what precisely I was also referring to. What is my threshold and how to go ahead and go ahead and take it forward? If canceling the project has to be an option, let it come out of the impact analysis which you perform end to end. Absolutely, A and B are ruled out because canceling the project can't be the option. Absolutely, you're getting it, guys. So it is a testing of subtle logic when thinking recommendations put to client. Yes, absolutely, Calvin. Project manager is there to handle the situation rather than canceling it first. Absolutely, Deepak. Bang on. Okay, so we are done with all the questions out here, and I presume at this fag end you start feeling the happiness of you going ahead and canceling out the wrong options and coming out with the right options instead, also knowing the PMI way of thinking and the agile mindset. Yes, absolutely, Calvin. Thanks for putting out these brilliant points out here. Absolutely. Shouldn't overthink, absolutely. So that's one of the key things out here. Should need to go ahead and think only from the context of the question. Shouldn't overthink. Also, shouldn't go for the extreme options like canceling the project or accepting something without analyzing. If someone goes ahead and tells you that this is the situation, just go ahead with this, or increase the estimate, decrease the estimate. Why? Ask why. You are a PMP certified professional or going to be one, so you have to go ahead and rely on the estimates, on the judgment that you come out with. You just can't go ahead and say that this is not going to be the case. Thanks, Ashish. Yes, Stephen, what kind of help are you looking forward to from this question? Again, feel free to reach me out. By the way, let me go ahead and type in my email ID. Yeah. So you get to see my email ID out there featuring, as well as you have my LinkedIn profile to go ahead and get in touch with me if you have any doubts or any queries or wish to go ahead and get started, the assured EduHubSpot way. That's what we look forward to. So we make things very seamless for you, and very easy for you to get done or get over with, getting you in line with the PMI way of thinking. And that takes obviously some well defined process and structure, which is going ahead and meeting to requirements of all our mentees worldwide, day in and out. So just feel free to reach me out if you have any queries anytime. And very very important, last but not the least, please show love, please share the videos with any of your friends who wishes to go ahead and get started with the line of thinking out here, and obviously reach out to me. You can share my email ID with them as well. I will be welcome to go ahead and take forward any of your queries at any point of time. Yeah, it's our passion, EduHubSpot's passion to make you PMP certified. And we don't take respite until and unless we go ahead and help you attain that. Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Stephen. Anyone else, any queries? Okay, so I also have the links of the previous videos out there in our channel on YouTube. You can feel free to refer to those at any point of time. And very importantly, my bootcamp is coming up on the 11th of September. So you can just feel free to reach me out if you have any queries, or you wish to go ahead and get started the best way possible for your PMP preparation or journey. Yeah, you have the list of all the packages from EduHubSpot, coming at your end. You can just feel free to refer to that at any point of time. And yeah, so see you again next week with a fresh set of questions. I really enjoy with you guys, and each time I come out with new learnings from you. That's how I go ahead and take day in and day out. Very, very nice to have you all. Love you all, and see you again next week. Till then, take care. Bye bye. Yes, this video will be recorded, Juan. No worries. See you. Bye.